We will get through this together because that's what Papa would have wanted us to do.
A vigil honoring the life of a local tech CEO after her brutal murder.
She was the definition of daddy's little girl.
We look into the suspected killer's lengthy criminal past as the manhunt intensifies and other crimes he could be connected to. Plus, the renewed calls to get repeat violent offenders off the streets in the wake of this tragedy.
There is no way in hell that he should have been on the street.
Struggles to get answers on underperforming city schools.
Where you can run a camera inside the boardroom.
Or outside.
The steps taken by FOX45 News Project Baltimore to get answers for parents. Then, another downtown business is broken into. A look at concerns over public safety as Orioles playoff buzz draws more fans to Camden Yards.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is FOX45 News at 10.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
I'm Kai Jackson. The hunt for a suspect police are calling armed and dangerous intensifies as we learn new disturbing information about his criminal history. Jason Billingsley is accused of killing 26-year-old Pavel Lepere, found brutally murdered on the roof of her apartment.
And tonight, family and friends gather for a vigil to honor the young tech CEO who had such a promising future in Baltimore.
She was the definition of daddy's little girl. She had me wrapped and still does.
Well, her suspected killer still at large tonight. He has 3 warrants out for his arrest, including for a rape and attempted murder that happened last week. Police say Jason Billingsley attacked a man and a woman inside a home on Edmondson Avenue, raping the woman and slitting both of their throats before setting fire to the home. According to police, both victims survived.
Billingsley is a repeat offender. He spent several years in prison on 3 separate charges before his release last October. A $6,000 reward is on the table for anyone with information regarding his whereabouts. Police believe he may still be in the Baltimore area and is considered armed and dangerous. If you think you may have seen him, you're asked to call 911. Acting Police Commissioner Rich Worley says he may strike again.
This individual will kill and he will rape. He will do anything he can to cause harm.
There is no way in hell that he should have been on the street.
Well, tonight we have team coverage as Mackenzie Frost looks into why Billingsley was let out of prison in the first place. Amy Simpson digs deeper into the pattern of violence continuing to claim innocent lives.
We begin.
Armed robbery at Canton's T-Mobile store. And this week, 26-year-old Pavel Lepere, a young CEO named to Forbes 30 Under 30, found dead at her apartment building in the city's Bromo Arts District. All 5 victims likely strangers to one another, yet linked in tragedy. All of them seemingly innocent, random victims of violent crime in Baltimore.
I want people to ponder, when are you going to get tired of this? When are you going to get tired of this?
Sergeant Betsy Smith is the spokeswoman for the National Police Association.
This young woman was murdered by a man who should have been in prison, and now he's on the run.
Smith drawing parallels between violence in Baltimore and her hometown of Chicago.
Say 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, there were certain neighborhoods that people would avoid because that's where most of the crime was. Now, it's everywhere. It's affecting everyone, and people are paying attention.
This week's brutal and brazen homicide of a young female entrepreneur, thrusting Baltimore into the national headlines.
It's a city that I always love to visit. It's historic. It's picturesque. But now nationally, what are people hearing about Baltimore, Maryland? That it's a violent city that cannot seem to get a handle on its murder problem, on its violent crime problem.
Smith questioning why Pavel Leper's suspected killer, 32-year-old Jason Billingsley, was ever released from custody.
Our politicians talk a lot about women's health and women's safety. And this man was a convicted sex offender who was allowed to roam free to further victimize innocent women. We have got to stop letting that happen.
Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
You heard Amy mention Evelyn Players. She was murdered by a repeat violent offender, Manzi Smith Jr., back in 2021. Now, nearly 2 years later, Pavel Leper's death is reigniting the push for stronger laws to address repeat offenders. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost looks into why convicted criminals seem to be slipping through the cracks.
Lawmakers have had several opportunities to implement tougher penalties on repeat violent offenders, but so far have yet to make those plans a reality. Now a renewed focus on this given the criminal history of the suspect involved in this case and a plea deal that was approved by a Baltimore City judge. From the outside, the building where 26-year-old Pavel Leper was killed doesn't look like a crime scene. But inside, that's where Baltimore police say this suspect, Jason Billingsley, brutally killed the tech CEO. Court records show Billingsley pleaded guilty to first-degree sex offense in 2015, sentenced to 30 years with all but 14 suspended. The plea deal, coming from a prosecutor in Marilyn Mosby's administration, signed off by Judge Emanuel Brown.
We are tired of talking about the same people committing the same kind of crimes over and over again.
Mayor Brennan Scott putting the focus back on repeat violent offenders, a topic lawmakers in Annapolis had years to address. The Violent Firearms Offender Act, a priority for former Governor Larry Hogan, passed the Senate a few times, but always dying in the House. And in 2022, we pressed the Senate president if he would bring the plan up for a vote again.
I think before the Senate would take it up again, we'd want to see some movement on the other chamber so that we know that we're not sort of throwing it into the wind.
That didn't happen, and Hogan leaving office without seeing the plan pass.
We had legislation that we thought was critically important, and every single year, all of the city leaders and all of the city legislators killed those bills. That's my biggest frustration of being governor. That we couldn't get that fixed, but it wasn't for a lack of trying. It was for a lack of cooperation.
Another push for Hogan, the Judicial Transparency Act, a report card of sorts for judges, giving the public access to sentences with judges' names, making it easier for the public to track plea deals and sentences. Ultimately, a watered-down version became law, publicizing sentencing data without the names of the judges.
You will get a better sense of what's working and what's not in different parts of the state.
This creates as much transparency as a brick wall. They're hiding behind a closed courtroom and behind their robes.
Repeat violent offenders are being, cut sweetheart plea deals by prosecutors.
Zach Smith, the criminal justice policy expert, says the plea deal with Billingsley is an example of the problem.
Is too many politicians have bought into this idea that we have a mass incarceration. Under this very liberal view of what constitutes mass incarceration, you're necessarily going to be releasing repeat violent offenders back into the community with devastating consequences.
He argues lawmakers don't have a choice but to move on legislation targeting repeat violent offenders. We sent several questions to the Baltimore City delegation and House Speaker Adrian Jones, including, was it a mistake not to pass the Violent Firearms Offender Act previously? Will you support similar legislation that would implement tougher penalties for repeat violent offenders? Delegate Young, the only one to respond, telling Fox 45 News in part that he is, quote, open to considering any legislation that enhances public safety. However, it's important to note that simply increasing penalties may not be the sole solution to achieving improved public safety. No one else responded. Meanwhile, the laws remain the same, repeat violent offenders remain a concern, and the General Assembly has yet to address the problem impacting communities across Maryland. This isn't the first time we're seeing lawmakers seemingly ignore the public. It's happening when it comes to the juvenile crime crisis right now. We continue to hear from prosecutors, parents, and police ask lawmakers to change the current laws and hold young people accountable. But so far, those laws on the books are staying the same. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, given Billingsley's lengthy criminal record, political analyst John Deedy says residents have a right to be frustrated that he was set free.
How the hell did this plea deal come into play for someone who was a repeat offender, who was sentenced to 30 years in jail, 14 suspended, and got out after 7? And I think that's what really irritates a lot of people and frustrates a lot of people about the criminal justice system.
Billingsley isn't the only repeat offender released from prison early due to a lenient plea deal from former City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby's office. In June of last year, police say 20-year-old Austin Davidson shot and killed a Wacomico County Sheriff's deputy. Davidson pleaded guilty to armed robbery in Baltimore in 2017, but set free in 2020. That same month, Baltimore police say Joseph Black struck an officer with his car during an arrest. He has a long rap sheet of convictions, including attempted murder dating back nearly 20 years, but he was on parole at the time. And then there is convicted arsonist Luther Trent, who told Fox 45 News he was stunned by his original plea deal, only 6 months behind bars for setting his ex-girlfriend's house on fire with her and 2 others inside. Trent says his own plea deal sent the wrong message to criminals, and the deal was eventually reversed.
Mackenzie mentioned the juvenile crime crisis, part of a brewing storm between lawmakers and those on the front lines of the crisis. Police and prosecutors are taking issue with 2 laws: the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, which limits children 13 and under from facing most charges, and the Child Interrogation Act. That prevents police from questioning juvenile suspects without an attorney and parent present. House Speaker Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are 2 of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. If you want to contact them about juvenile justice laws, we have their phone numbers and email addresses on the screen. You can call those numbers or email them to reach them.
And if you would like to connect with more of your elected leaders, our website makes it easy. Go to foxbaltimore.com, click on the menu at the top left of your screen and select lawmakers from the list. From there, you can enter your home address to find officials who represent you at the local, state, and federal levels.
That brings us to our question of the day. Do Maryland's current crime laws make you feel more safe or less safe? So far, 88% of those who voted say less safe. You can make your voice heard by going to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Well, the Orioles keep on winning, inching closer to an AL East crown. Another win over the Nationals tonight means the magic number to clinch is down to 1. The O's could have clinched with a Rays loss, but that didn't happen. They can secure the division with a win over the Red Sox tomorrow night. Rocco DeSangro has tonight's highlights from Camden Yards ahead on Sports Unlimited. And Fox 45 is your home for the 2023 World Series. The action starts Friday, October 27th. You can watch every game right here on Fox 45.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, while Baltimore is buzzing about October baseball, another business owner near Camden Yards is robbed. How it fits into a troubling trend near Oriole Park. Republican presidential candidates are center stage in California for the second presidential debate for Republicans. We'll have a live report on how it's going so far.
For our Thursday, it's back to more clouds with temperatures in the 60s area-wide. Could even have a couple of spot showers. I'm going to let you know we're going to warm into the 80s, though, with sun. That's all in my Weather Authority forecast.
And Project Baltimore is working to get answers for you about troubling Baltimore City test scores. What happened when police tried to stop Chris Papps from going into the meeting and the drastic steps we took to get answers. Fox 45 tries to get answers from Baltimore City schools after a recent investigation found 13 city high schools where 0 students who took the state math test scored proficient.
And that investigation went viral, making national headlines. But when Project Baltimore's Chris Papps went to the city school board meeting Tuesday night, the school system made it very clear they did not want to talk.
Baltimore City Schools has a $1.7 billion budget per student. That's one of the highest in the nation among large school systems. But a Project Baltimore investigation found math scores across the district are alarmingly low. And this is not necessarily a new problem, but who is going to take action to fix it? These are the main players who could. About 70% of Baltimore City Schools' budget comes from the state. About 20% comes from a city. The State Board of Education oversees all public schools in Maryland. So who is going to take action to improve student outcomes in Baltimore City? We start by trying to get answers from city schools leadership. Project Baltimore went to Baltimore City Schools headquarters hoping to speak with CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises or board member before Tuesday's board meeting.
Or where you run the camera inside the board. Or outside. Or one side.
We wanted to ask them about the most recent state test results, but right away, the district made it clear. District leaders did not want to talk.
Is this a new rule? It's not. It's not a new, it's just never been enforced. I guess it's never been enforced.
Minutes after we arrived, a police officer and a district spokesperson told us we were not allowed to record in the atrium at the entrance to the boardroom where public meetings are held every month and where members of the media regularly wait to conduct interviews.
Never been in here running a camera.
I've been in here for years running a camera. Okay, so you're enforcing the policy now. Okay, we're going to go in here.
Thank you. Inside the boardroom, we were told no one from City Schools leadership would be speaking with us.
Who do you want to talk to? Anyone who would talk to me at this point.
After years of Baltimore City Schools refusing to sit down with us to answer questions of public concern, we anticipated this. So Project Baltimore sent our questions in this letter to the school board, which was read Tuesday evening during public comment.
And our last public comment is from Chris Papps, and his affiliation is FOX45 and CAP scores, and this is a letter that I will read for him.
Since school leaders wouldn't let us ask our questions in person, we had the board executive ask them for us.
Do you find these results acceptable? If not, what are you doing to correct this? Who should the community hold accountable?
Our letter discussed how over the last 10 days, Fox 45's reporting has gone viral. We obtained from a source the unredacted results of state test scores from this past spring. We found 13 high schools where 0 students who took the state test scored proficient in math. At the 5 top performing high schools, a combined 809 students took the state math test, and just 11% scored proficient. Media outlets around the nation reported on our findings, and during this board meeting, Dr. Santelises defended her school system.
Despite what some media outlets would have you believe, we are making progress.
Santelises criticized the Project Baltimore report, saying some of the students at the 5 top city high schools were not included in the results because they took the state math test before entering high school.
In fact, many of the students at the 5 high schools referenced in a recent news story, Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, Baltimore School for the Arts, Baltimore City College, Western High School, and Bard High School Early College Baltimore had already passed the Algebra MCAP test before entering those schools.
Santelises did not explain how many students took the test before entering those high schools, but she did say most grades in 2023 saw math proficiencies improve from the previous year.
We are firmly committed to building on this improvement.
During her remarks, which she made before hearing Project Baltimore's letter, Santelises never addressed the 13 high schools where 0 students tested proficient in math.
When Project Baltimore revealed these results,
and after our letter was read, our questions remained unanswered.
This is a major issue of public concern. Baltimore City Schools will receive nearly $2 billion from taxpayers this year. What message does this board have for the families who attend these 13 high schools where 0 students tested proficient in math? Should parents be concerned when even the best schools in Baltimore City have so few students who tested proficient in math? We believe parents and taxpayers deserve answers. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to move into board committee reports.
Baltimore City Schools did not answer our questions. So on Monday, watch as we show you what happened when we took our questions to these city and state officials. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
And I'm going to tell you something, ma'am. I cried. I sat there and cried.
Saying goodbye to a baseball legend, the emotional tributes to Mr. Oriole himself, Brooks Robinson. The debate over bike lanes continues in Baltimore, this time in Remington, why one business owner says a new bike lane in her neighborhood has her worried for cyclists and for people with physical disabilities.
And although not the 63 that we had yesterday, even with sun today, only made it to 69. And I say only because we should be in the mid and upper 70s this time of year. And tomorrow, guess what? The clouds are back in for the O's as we try to take the AL East one game out. First pitch, we're at 69 with a couple of showers, and it looks like maybe a couple of light showers. Shouldn't cancel or delay the game. Just kind of sprinkles with temperatures in the 60s throughout. I'm going to let you know when sunshine and 80s. That's right. Could be in the forecast in a couple of minutes.
And let's take a live look at the Inner Harbor as we head into break. We had a welcome break from the rain and a lot of sun out there today. We all loved it, and it still looks nice tonight. Back in a moment. A few community groups are coming together to call on City Council to investigate the bike lane and road reconfiguration project happening in the Remington neighborhood.
Yeah, residents say they did not agree to the project and they're concerned how the bike lane will impact safety.
We asked them to make us safer and they moved the street closer, which obliterated our handicap access. This project and my opposition is not about parking. It is about safety. Safety for my fellow cyclists and to any of the disabled people that need the access on this block.
Well, this is the latest in an ongoing battle over the city's Complete Streets ordinance, which will add bike lanes to many neighborhoods around the city. You can find more on the back and forth on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Republican presidential hopefuls are on the debate stage in California right now. We'll have a live report on how it's going right after the break.
We're following three big stories tonight. Playoff buzz at Camden Yards dimmed by safety concerns surrounding the ballpark. A local restaurant owner's frustration after another break-in near Oriole Park.
A third city council hearing on the Brooklyn Day mass shooting, this time focusing on the mayor's office of neighborhood safety and engagement. Why today's hearing left lingering questions about Safe Streets' response.
And another chance for Republican presidential hopefuls to win potential voters as 7 candidates take the stage for tonight's GOP debate. We begin with the debate happening right now at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library near Los Angeles.
Chief political correspondent Scott Thuman, closely watching the debate, joins us live from Washington. Scott, we're about 90 minutes in at this point. What or who is standing out to you so far?
Mary and Kai, the economy is what's standing out, and that's because that's a subject that it seems they're focusing most on and laying the most blame at the president's feet for, saying that almost 70% of Americans believe the country is going in the wrong direction, and they say it is the policies of this administration, of President Biden, that have made that situation worse. And of course, playing to that kind of universal argument that candidates love to, which is, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And they say, of course, the answer should be no. And so we're hearing a lot of attacks on so-called Bidenomics. You've got 7 candidates on stage tonight, and for the most part, they've been agreeing on that particular issue. But it doesn't mean that they've been civil throughout the night. The elbows have come out multiple times. Vivek Ramaswamy, who emerged as a bit more noteworthy of a candidate after the first debate in Milwaukee, taking the brunt of those hits tonight. Nikki Haley saying she feels a little dumber every time she hears from him. Tim Scott going after Ramaswamy with some pretty tough talk as well. Chaotic at moments, which you expect in a debate. So none of that is really out of order, but really just the economy is the big deal tonight.
Yeah, Scott, Donald Trump didn't attend the first debate. He said he wasn't going to attend this one, and in fact, he didn't. How does that play with voters?
Well, you know, for the most part, former President Trump's able to argue, just look at the numbers, look at the poll numbers. He's still got a dominant lead over other GOP contenders, and so he feels no need to be there. He's in Michigan tonight giving a speech to some striking auto workers, which is another kind of national labor crisis going on right now. And so he believes he can curry favor in a state that he won in 2016 but lost in 2020 if he's the nominee, wants to get back. But it doesn't mean he wasn't mentioned in this debate, and so far has been cited multiple times, and plenty of candidates, not just Chris Christie, but others calling him out, saying he needs to be on this stage. He needs to account for what he did to the economy, saying that it was under his 4 years that $7 trillion was added to the national debt. And so, yes, the economy, the big subject, yes, the big target is President Biden, but not all of it. And a lot of people calling out Donald Trump tonight.
All right, Scott Thuman in D.C., thank you for your analysis of the debate tonight. We appreciate it.
Certainly.
It is the final week of the Orioles' regular season, and soon Camden Yards and the surrounding area will be buzzing with playoff excitement. But the anticipation also comes with some safety concerns as a restaurant near the ballpark is burglarized. Fox 45's Jeff Abel joins us live with the latest. And Jeff, you spoke with that owner recently?
Exactly. You know, after one restaurant was burglarized last week, his neighbor predicted the burglars would be back to the neighborhood. But he didn't predict that his own restaurant would be the next target. At Oriole Park, it's a season to celebrate. But outside the gates, it's a season of survival.
They came in, they grabbed the register, they pulled it out.
A few steps from Oriole Park, the owner of Luna Del Sea became the latest target of thieves. His door shattered, his register stolen, and the owner at the height of frustration.
These incidents that they happen is a downfall, not of the business, is a downfall of the security of the city.
It was just last week when thieves hit a neighboring restaurant, Section 771, shattering windows, stealing alcohol, and vanishing in the middle of the night. At the time, the owner of Luna Del Sea predicted the burglars would be back.
They got away with it. They might go come and do it again.
Owner Tony Asadi did not know his business would be the next target.
These people, they want to grab money, grab gift, grab everything.
Economists have long warned about the impact these crimes are having on visitors.
So the mayor should be talking about, we care about your safety when you come to Baltimore. We take that very seriously. We're doing things to make you safer in a city that has been quite dangerous historically.
I cannot bring my family down there. And if I come down there by myself, something happened, my car gets hijacked.
Asadi says many of his longtime customers are now too afraid to visit the city. And after the attack on his restaurant this morning, he's making yet one more prediction.
If the laws don't change, this is going to get worse and worse.
This latest burglary joins a string of carjackings, shootings, and robberies that have all taken place recently, less than a mile from Oriole Park. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. A recent surge in burglaries isn't just a problem in Baltimore. In fact, more than a dozen teens were arrested in Philadelphia last night, charged with looting Foot Lockers, Targets, and other large chains. Fox 45's Vincent Hill looks into the rise in retail crime across the country. That's coming up at 10:45.
A third hearing on the Brooklyn Day mass shooting in City Council today left more questions than answers when it comes to the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement and Safe Streets response to the tragedy. Monzi Interim Director Stephanie Mavronis not revealing many new details. She spent time highlighting the timeline for Safe Streets workers at the Brooklyn Day block party. Now, she says the workers at the party conducted 5 mediations between 8 and 10:30 that night. She says they were successfully resolved. She said a conflict is resolved when all parties agree to a compromise, and went on to say the nature of those mediations didn't indicate a mass shooting was about to happen. Mavronis points to Safe Streets and that they were there for much of the afternoon but didn't tell anybody about the party or potential threats.
There
finding was that there are only informal practices regarding when and how Safe Streets staff share knowledge with Monsey Community Violence Intervention staff about large events or potentially emerging threats to public safety in their catchment zones.
Mavronis says Monsey is working on a new policy for workers to escalate potential threats to Monsey leaders. That's set to take effect next month, but it is not clear what it includes exactly. It also still not clear what happened during those 5 mediations, what a mediation really looks like, or how mediations are recorded and reviewed.
Fans, players, and the baseball community continue to pay tribute to Orioles legend Brooks Robinson after his passing last night. Robinson spent all 23 years of his Hall of Fame career with the Baltimore Orioles, helping lead the team to its first 2 World Series titles.
Well, tonight, Robinson's iconic number 5 flying high from the warehouse at Camden Yards as the Orioles try to move one step closer to a potential World Series return. And of course, fans have been gathering around his statue inside the stadium all day to pay their respects.
And while Robinson dazzled in an Orioles uniform, many fans tell Fox 45 they'll remember the man just as much as the player.
And I'm going to tell you something, ma'am. I cried. I sat there and cried.
He had a personal touch that you just don't see from superstars.
He was a better character person than he was a ball player, and he was a Hall of Famer.
That's kind of something that I kept it, to my heart. No matter how good a person is, a plumber, electrician, attorney, whatever they are, when you're a better man, that's the Brooks way.
We even heard several stories of fans naming their children, of course, after Brooks. That's happened a lot. If you would like to pay your respects, the gates near his statue will be open all week unless there's a home game going on. And stay with Fox 45 News for continuing coverage. If you would like to share your thoughts on the passing of Brooks Robinson, look for this story on the Fox Baltimore Facebook page.
And if you're headed to the O's game or just having the kids headed to school tomorrow, it's a cloudier day, even some rain showers, at least some light ones coming during the afternoon. For pickup time at the bus stop, temperatures stopping in the 60s tomorrow afternoon. I'll let you know when sun and 80s could be in your forecast. That's up by Weather Authority forecast.